The Illyrian dropships descended on the Terra Nova colony like vultures upon carrion. Plasma beams scythed through the outpost's feeble defenses, silencing guns and slaughtering colonists. Commander Vega watched the massacre with a sneer of contempt. These primitive humans were no match for the might of the Interstellar Union. As the colony burned, Vega prepared to broadcast news of the effortless victory, but his triumph was cut short by a thunderous impact. Through the smoke, a lone drop pod had slammed into the ruins. Its hatch blew open, revealing a squad of hardened human soldiers in battle-scarred armor. At their head stood Captain Brian Hunter, the steely-eyed leader of the elite Omega Force. Outnumbered 10-1, the human warriors engaged the Illyrians in brutal close-quarters combat. Hunter led from the front, blasting aliens with his pulse rifle and carving through them with a nano-edged blade. To Vega's disbelief, the Omega Force not only held their ground, but pushed his troops back. The humans used the colony's wrecked buildings and narrow corridors to their advantage, wearing down the aliens with cunning guerrilla tactics. Licking his wounds after the humiliating defeat, Vega seethed at the insult dealt by a species the Interstellar Union had dismissed as backwards primitives. How could his warriors suffer such losses against low-tech primates? The implications were dire. If word spread that humans had repelled an Illyrian attack, it could inspire insurrection among the Union's client races. This budding rebellion had to be crushed before it blossomed into a wildfire. But the Terran Alliance, Earth's fledgling government, had a secret weapon, the indomitable human spirit embodied by soldiers like Brian Hunter, men and women who would never surrender, never stop fighting for humanity's place among the stars. As the Interstellar Union marshaled its armadas for a punitive strike, Hunter and his brothers-in-arms stood ready for the war that would decide their species' fate. The battle to prove humanity's mettle had only just begun. As the Illyrian warships descended upon human colonies like a plague of locusts, the frontier erupted into chaos. Plasma beams seared through the void, overwhelming the outpost's meager defenses and slaughtering colonists by the thousands. In the heart of Earth's military command, Colonel Mikhail Petrov watched the destruction unfold with an unshakable focus, etched into the lines of his battle-scarred face. The grizzled commander knew that the survival of millions hinged on the actions of the Omega Force, humanity's most elite soldiers. With the bulk of Earth's fleet days away, these warriors were the only hope for the besieged colonies. Petrov's determined eyes fixed on the holographic display as he watched the drop pods carrying Captain Brian Hunter and his team plummet towards the embattled world of New Athens. On the planet's surface, Major Lena Ivanova rallied the beleaguered garrison and civilian militia. They clung desperately to the last fortified strongholds as Illyrian troops swarmed through the burning cities. The ground trembled as the drop pods slammed into the heart of an enemy formation, disgorging Hunter and his battle-hardened soldiers into the fray. The Omega Force emerged from the billowing smoke, their Gauss rifles spitting streams of hypervelocity death. The advanced rounds tore through the aliens' energy shields as if they were paper, shredding their armor and sending ichor spraying. The Illyrian lines buckled under the ferocity of the human assault, their formations fracturing as soldiers fell by the dozens. General Zorgtal, the scarred Illyrian commander, roared with fury as his warriors reeled. The primitive humans, whom the Interstellar Union had dismissed as a footnote, were proving far more formidable than anticipated. As more of his soldiers fell to the Omega Force's onslaught, Zorgtal called for reinforcements, determined to drown the humans in a tide of blood. In the ruins of New Athens, Major Ivanova seized the opportunity created by Hunter's attack. She led the colonists in a daring ambush, luring the Illyrians into kill zones where improvised explosives and jury-rigged weapons awaited. The aliens, accustomed to the open battlefields of their conquests, found themselves mired in a nightmarish urban warfare. As the fighting raged, Colonel Petrov could only watch and wait, his hands clenched into fists. The vanguard of Earth's fleet was speeding towards New Athens, but every minute felt like an eternity. Sparks flew from overloaded consoles and klaxons blared as the human ships pushed their engines past the red line. On the planet, Captain Hunter and Major Ivanova hatched a desperate plan. Luring the bulk of Zorgthal's forces into a seemingly vulnerable sector of the city, the humans sprung their trap. Pre-placed charges erupted in a storm of fire and debris, bringing buildings crashing down upon the Illyrian troops. Even their advanced armor was no match for tons of ferrocrete and steel. Zorgthal's howls of rage echoed across the battlefield as his forces crumbled. The Illyrian general, his once gleaming armor now pitted and scorched, could only watch as the human fleet emerged from warp, guns blazing. Colonel Petrov's flagship rammed an enemy cruiser in a display of raw audacity, the titanium prow crumpling the alien ship's hull like foil. Faced with the shocking defeat on New Athens and mounting losses in orbit, the Illyrian fleet was forced to disengage. Zorgthal snarled his frustration as he ordered the withdrawal, vowing vengeance against the upstart humans. As the alien ships limped away, the soldiers of the Omega Force and the colonists of New Athens emerged from the rubble, bloodied but unbroken. Captain Hunter and Major Ivanova stood amid the ruins, their armor battered and their faces grim. They had won a crucial victory, but both knew it was only the beginning. The Interstellar Union would not forget this humiliation. The war for humanity's place in the stars was nowhere near the end. The Terran Alliance had shown it would not go quietly into the night, but the true test of its mettle was yet to come. The Illyrian flagship's warp engines flared as it retreated from Earth orbit, leaving behind a trail of debris and broken dreams. General Zorgthal stood on the bridge, his once pristine armor now scarred and dented. His mandibles clicked with barely suppressed rage as he watched the blue marble of Earth recede on the console. "Plot a course for the Imperial throne world," he growled to his navigation officer. "The Emperor demands an explanation." Days later, Zorgthal knelt before Emperor Malkor in the vast obsidian throne room. The Emperor's crystalline eyes glowed with cold fury as he regarded his disgraced general. "You assured me these humans were primitives," Malkor hissed. "Yet they have humiliated our forces not once, but twice." Zorgthal's mind raced. "My Emperor, I take full responsibility for underestimating our foe, but I have devised a plan to crush them once and for all." As Zorgthal outlined his strategy for a massive assault on Earth itself, light years away, the Terran Alliance was preparing for the next phase of the war. In the cavernous Situation Room beneath Geneva, newly promoted General Mikhail Petrov studied holographic star charts. The room buzzed with activity as officers and analysts worked to process the flood of data from the recent battle. "Congratulations on the promotion, sir," Captain Brian Hunter said as he entered, still wearing his battle-scarred Omega Force armor. Petrov's weathered face creased in a grim smile. "Let's hope I live up to it, Captain. We've bloodied the Illyrians' nose, but they'll be back, and angrier than ever." Hunter nodded. "My team is ready for whatever you need, General." "Good," Petrov replied, "because I'm sending you into the lion's den." Over the next weeks, Hunter and his Omega Force undertook a series of high-risk missions deep in enemy territory. They sabotaged supply depots, ambushed troop transports, and gathered vital intelligence on Illyrian movements. Their most daring operation targeted a massive shipyard orbiting a red giant star. Hunter's team infiltrated the facility in stolen maintenance pods, planting antimatter charges at key structural points. As they fought their way back to their extraction point, an Illyrian patrol cornered them in a storage bay. Energy bolts sizzled through the air as Hunter's squad took cover behind stacks of crates. "Phillips, Jensen, suppressing fire," Hunter barked. "Kowalski, prep that improvised EMP." The humans weathered the Illyrian assault, their superior tactics allowing them to hold out until Kowalski's jury-rigged device sent out an electromagnetic pulse. The aliens' energy weapons flickered and died, leaving them vulnerable to a swift counterattack. Moments later, Hunter's team blasted away from the doomed shipyard. Behind them, a chain reaction of explosions tore the facility apart, crippling the Illyrians' production capabilities in that sector. Back on Earth, General Petrov received an unexpected visitor in his office. The holographic figure that materialized bore little resemblance to any known species, a being of swirling energy barely held back within a vaguely humanoid form. "Greetings, General," the entity said in a voice like chiming crystal. "I am Zor-El of the Karushan Consortium. We have been watching your conflict with great interest." Petrov's eyes narrowed. And what is your interest in our war, Zor-El? Let us say that the Illyrians' expansion has become inconvenient for us, Zor-El replied. We are prepared to offer you certain technologies that may prove useful in your defense. Petrov weighed the offer carefully. He knew better than to blindly trust an alien power, but Earth needed every advantage it could get. We'll consider your offer, he said at last. But know this, humanity fights for itself, not as anyone's proxy. Zor-El's form shimmered in what might have been amusement. Of course, General. We would expect nothing less. As Petrov grappled with the implications of this new development, the Illyrian armada was already on the move. Thousands of warships dropped out of warp near Jupiter, their weapons charged and targeting systems locked on Earth. Alarms blared in every major city as the Terran defense grid detected the incoming threat. Civilians rushed to shelters while military personnel scrambled to their posts. The night sky lit up with the eerie glow of energy shields snapping into place over population centers. In low Earth orbit, the combined Terran fleet formed up to meet the Illyrian onslaught. Railguns spat hyper-velocity rounds while missile salvos streaked across the void. The two armadas clashed in a furious battle that turned near-Earth space into a maelstrom of destruction. On the Illyrian flagship, General Zorgthal watched with grim satisfaction as his forces pushed towards the planet. Prepare the dropships, he ordered. It's time to end this human war. As the Illyrian armada bore down on Earth, Admiral Voxera's sleek command ship sliced through the void at the head of a second hidden fleet. Emperor Malkor had entrusted her with salvaging the invasion after Zorgthal's humiliating failure. Voxera's four eyes narrowed as she studied the tactical holograms. The humans fight like cornered prey, she mused. We must draw them out, make them overconfident. Her plan unfolded with surgical precision. As the main Illyrian force hammered Earth's defenses, Voxera's ships struck at seemingly vulnerable supply lines and outlying colonies. The bait was set. On the Terran flagship Indomitable, General Petrov received urgent reports of Illyrian attacks across the frontier. It's a diversion, he growled, studying the star charts. But we can't ignore it. Captain Hunter, prepare your team for immediate deployment. The Omega Force dropships screamed through the atmosphere of Novaya Praha, engines roaring as they evaded Illyrian interceptors. Hunter's comm crackled with Major Ivanova's voice. We're pinned down in the capital. Need immediate support. Roger that, Major. We're coming in hot. The dropships touched down amid the rubble of the colonial capital. Hunter's team fanned out, their Gauss rifles spitting hypervelocity rounds at the Illyrian shock troops. For hours, they fought block by block, driving the aliens back. As night fell, Hunter stood atop a shattered comm tower, surveying the scorched battlefield. Something's not right, he muttered. This was too easy. His suspicions were confirmed when the planetary defense grid suddenly went dark. Hundreds of Illyrian warships dropped out of warp, their weapons already charging. It's a trap, Hunter roared into his comm. All units, fall back to evac points. But it was too late. Voxera's interdiction arrays snapped online, scrambling the humans' communications and drive systems. Terran ships tumbled helplessly in space as Illyrian energy beams lanced out, carving through armor and hulls. On the ground, Hunter and his team found themselves cut off as Illyrian dropships disgorged fresh troops. Form a perimeter, he ordered. We hold until extraction arrives. For days, the Omega Force fought a desperate holding action. Their ammunition dwindled, their armor cracked and scorched. Hunter watched grimly as more of his soldiers fell to the relentless Illyrian assault. In orbit, General Petrov's flagship shuddered under the aliens' onslaught. Status report, he barked. Shields at 30%, sir. We've lost contact with half the fleet. Petrov's mind raced. They needed a miracle, and fast. Get me Captain Hunter, he ordered. I have a mission for him. On the surface, Hunter received Petrov's transmission through bursts of static. Those arrays are the key, the general's voice crackled. Take them out, and we might have a chance. Hunter nodded grimly. Understood, sir. We'll get it done. He assembled a strike team from his remaining soldiers. This is a one-way trip, he told them bluntly. But if we succeed, we give Earth a fighting chance. They moved out under the cover of darkness, using stealth tech to slip past Illyrian patrols. The arrays loomed before them, crackling with energy that made their hair stand on end. "Plant the charges," Hunter ordered. "We'll overload the power cores and—" A particle beam sliced through the air, vaporizing two of his soldiers. Illyrian troops poured from hidden bunkers, their weapons blazing. "Take cover," Hunter shouted, returning fire. "Complete the mission at all costs." As his team fought for their lives, Hunter raced toward the array's control center. He had to reach it, had to give Earth a chance, even if it meant his own life. Life meant nothing. The world exploded into chaos as Hunter reached the array's control center. Illyrian energy bolts sizzled past his head, leaving scorch marks on the metallic walls. He dove behind a console, his armor scraping against the floor. The acrid smell of burning circuitry filled the air. "Status," he barked into his comm. "Charges set, sir," came the reply, punctuated by the staccato of gunfire. "But we're pinned down." Hunter's mind raced. They were out of options. He reached for the detonator, his finger hovering over the trigger. One press and the mission would be complete, but at what cost? A violent tremor shook the facility. Through the view screen, Hunter saw a massive Illyrian battlecruiser descending from orbit, its weapons ports glowing with terrifying energy. "All units, fall back," he ordered, his voice hoarse. "Rendezvous at Point Echo." As his team scrambled for safety, Hunter activated the charges. The array erupted in a blinding flash, the shockwave knocking him off his feet. Alarms blared as the structure began to collapse around him. Stumbling through smoke-filled corridors, Hunter emerged into the harsh light of an alien sun. The sky was filled with Illyrian ships, their hulls gleaming like polished obsidian. On the horizon, he could see the contrails of human dropships fleeing the planet. "This is Captain Hunter to any Terran forces," he broadcast on all frequencies. "We're cut off and need immediate extraction." Static was his only reply. Hours passed as Hunter's team evaded Illyrian patrols, finally establishing a hidden outpost in the ruins of an abandoned mining facility. The air was thick with tension as they waited for rescue or discovery. Lieutenant Jake Adams approached, his face streaked with grime and dried blood. "Sir, we can't stay here forever," he said, his voice low. "The Illyrians are bound to find us eventually." Hunter nodded grimly. "I know, Jake, but we have to hold out. Help will come." As if in answer to his words, the comm crackled to life. "Captain Hunter, this is General Petrov. Do you copy?" Hunter's heart leapt. "We're here, sir. What's the situation?" "Listen carefully." Petrov's voice was tense. "We've made a deal with the Karushans. Their stealth ships are en route to extract you. Be ready for anything." Before Hunter could respond, alarms blared. Illyrian forces had discovered their location. "Defensive positions!" Hunter shouted as energy beams lanced through the air. The sky lit up with explosions as Karushan ships suddenly materialized, their sleek hulls absorbing incoming fire. A hatch opened on the nearest vessel, revealing a shimmering energy tether. "Go, go, go!" Hunter ordered, providing cover fire as his team raced for the extraction point. One by one, they latched onto the tether and were pulled to safety. Hunter watched as Jake Adams made his way across the battlefield, dodging Illyrian fire. Suddenly, a massive explosion rocked the ground. Hunter lost sight of Adams in the chaos. "Jake!" he shouted, scanning the smoke-filled air. The Karushan ship rocked under a barrage of enemy fire. "We must leave now," an alien voice resonated in Hunter's helmet. With a sickening realization, Hunter knew he had to make an impossible choice. Every second they delayed put the entire mission at risk. "Get us out of here," he growled, his fists clenched as the hatch sealed shut. As the Karushan ships jumped to safety, Hunter felt the weight of his decision crushing down upon him. He had left a man behind, not just any man, but Jake Adams, his friend and most trusted lieutenant. The sterile corridors of the Karushan flagship seemed to mock Hunter as he made his way to the bridge. He found General Petrov in heated discussion with a being of swirling energy, Zor-El, the Karushan leader. "Ah, Captain Hunter," Zor-El's voice chimed. "I trust the extraction was satisfactory?" Hunter's fist tight. "We lost a man, Lieutenant Jake Adams." Zor-El's form shimmered. A regrettable necessity in war, I'm afraid. Necessity? Hunter spat. Or was it by design? Your ships could have waited another minute. Captain, Petrov warned, but Hunter was beyond caring. You claim to be our allies, he continued, advancing on Zor-El, but I think you're just using us as pawns in your game against the Illyrians. Zor-El's form pulsed with barely held back energy. You forget your place, human. Without us, you would already be crushed beneath the Illyrian boot. As tension crackled in the air, a junior officer burst onto the bridge. General Petrov, sir, we've intercepted an Illyrian transmission. You need to see this. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing the imposing figure of Emperor Malkor. At his feet knelt a battered but defiant Jake Adams. Greetings, Terran Alliance, Malkor's voice boomed. As you can see, we have something that belongs to you. Perhaps now you'll be more inclined to negotiate. The transmission cut off, leaving the bridge in stunned silence. Hunter turned to Petrov and Zor-El, his eyes blazing. We're going after him, he declared. Whatever it takes. Zor-El's form shimmered with what might have been amusement. Of course, Captain. But first, there's the small matter of our agreement to discuss. As Petrov began outlining the terms of their new alliance, Hunter couldn't shake the feeling that they had traded one set of chains for another. The war against the Illyrians was a long way to go, but now they faced enemies both without and within. The bridge of the Karushan flagship crackled with tension. Hunter's eyes bored into Zor-El's shimmering form, his heart made tight enough to snap steel. You used us, he growled. Adams was just collateral damage in your grand scheme. Zor-El's energy field pulsed. Your human sentimentality blinds you to the larger picture, Captain. The Illyrians must be stopped at any cost. General Petrov stepped between them, his weathered face a mask of nearly unleashed fury. And what other costs are you willing to inflict upon my people, Zor-El? The Karushan leader's form rippled with what might have been irritation. I offer you a chance to strike a crippling blow against our shared enemy. The Raknor shipyards are the linchpin of Illyrian naval power. Destroy them, and we hobble their war machine. Hunter opened his mouth to object, but Petrov silenced him with a sharp gesture. We'll consider your proposal, the general said coldly. Dismissed. As Zor-El's avatar faded, Petrov turned to Hunter. I don't trust her any more than you do, Captain, but we're in no position to refuse aid, even from such questionable allies. Hunter nodded grimly. What are your orders, sir? Prepare your team for the assault on Raknor. And Hunter? Petrov's eyes softened for a moment. We'll find a way to get Adams back. I promise you that. Across the void of space, aboard the Illyrian flagship, Admiral Vox Serra watched with satisfaction as Lieutenant Adams was brought before Emperor Malkor. The human soldier's face was bruised but defiant. Malkor's massive form loomed over Adams. You will serve as an excellent bargaining chip, human, he rumbled. But first, you may prove useful in other ways. With a gesture, the Emperor summoned a slender figure from the shadows. This is Zara, he said. She will be your companion for the foreseeable future. Adams stared in disbelief at the woman before him. She could have passed for human, save for the faint shimmer of her skin, a telltale sign of Illyrian genetic manipulation. Take him to the brig, Malkor ordered. Zara, you know what to do. As Adams was led away, Vox Serra approached the Emperor. The human operative is ready, my lord. She will infiltrate the Karushan flagship with ease. Malkor nodded. Excellent. Let the games begin. Days later, Hunter crouched behind a twisted bulkhead, particle rifle at the ready. Alarms blared throughout the Raknor shipyards as his team pushed deeper into the facility. Charges set in Section 3, Corporal Chen's voice crackled over the comm. Moving to the next target. Hunter acknowledged, then frowned. Something felt off. He did a quick head count of his squad and realized with a jolt that they were one soldier short. All units, report in, he barked. As his team sounded off, the absence became clear. Private Nix, their newest recruit, was missing. A cold dread settled in Hunter's gut. They'd been compromised. Abort mission, he shouted. Everyone fall back to... His words were cut off by a massive explosion that rocked the entire station. Emergency force fields snapped into place as atmosphere vented into space. "Damn it," Hunter snarled. Their hand had been forced. "New orders," he growled into his comm. "Push forward, take this place apart. We finish the job, no matter what." As his team fought their way through waves of Illyrian defenders, Hunter couldn't shake the image of Adams. He'd made the call to complete the mission once before, leaving his friend behind. Now he was doing it again. The Allied fleet was already withdrawing when Hunter's team made it back to their extraction point. Through the viewport, he watched as the Rak-Nor shipyards collapsed in on themselves, wreathed in atomic fire. It should have felt like a victory. Instead, Hunter's mouth tasted of ashes. Back aboard the Karushan flagship, the full extent of the deception became clear. Zor-El had manipulated events, sacrificing Adams to ensure the destruction of Rak-Nor. The revelation nearly sparked a brawl on the bridge as Hunter lunged at the Karushan leader, barely restrained by Petrov. "You treacherous—" Hunter's tirade was cut short as an alert blared. "Multiple Illyrian signatures detected," a sensor officer shouted. "They're on an attack vector, aimed at the Terran colonies." Petrov's face went ashen. "How? Our defenses are spread too thin," Hunter finished grimly. As the situation spiraled further out of control, a transmission cut through the chaos. The Ekaran hegemony, a neutral power in the conflict, appeared on screen. "This madness must end," the Ekaran representative intoned. "We demand an immediate cessation of hostilities and the commencement of truce talks." Hunter watched as Petrov and Zor-El exchanged wary glances. Neither trusted the other, but both recognized the precariousness of their position. "Very well," Zor-El said at last. "We will meet with the Illyrians." As preparations for the diplomatic summit began, Hunter pulled Petrov aside. "General, request permission to lead a team to extract Lieutenant Adams." Petrov's eyes narrowed. "Denied, Captain. We need every asset focused on protecting our colonies." Hunter's fists clenched. "Sir, with all due respect—" "I said denied, Hunter," Petrov snapped, then his voice softening. "I understand how you feel, but we can't risk open conflict now, not with these talks on the horizon." As Petrov walked away, Hunter made a decision. He would find Adams, with or without official sanction, even if it meant defying direct orders. The seeds of disaster had been sown. Now it remained to be seen what bitter fruit they would bear. The Ekaran space station loomed before them, a sprawling construct of gleaming alloys and pulsing energy fields. Hunter stood rigidly at attention as the Terran diplomatic shuttle docked, his eyes never leaving General Petrov's back. The weight of his unauthorized rescue plans pressed heavily on his conscience. "Remember, Captain," Petrov said, his voice low, "we're here to negotiate, not start another war." Hunter nodded curtly. "Understood, sir." As they disembarked, Hunter's gaze swept the docking bay. Ekaran security forces stood at regular intervals, their advanced scanners probing each arrival for hidden weapons or devices. At the far end of the bay, a familiar figure caught his eye. "Adams," Hunter breathed, his heart racing. Lieutenant Jake Adams stood with the Karushan delegation, looking haggard but alive. Their eyes met and a ghost of a smile crossed Adams's face before he schooled his features back to neutrality. The Illyrian delegation arrived moments later, Emperor Malkor's massive form dwarfing his entourage. Hunter's hand instinctively tightened on his sidearm before he forced himself to relax. As they filed into the conference chamber, Hunter couldn't shake a gnawing sense of unease. The negotiations began, and Malkor's booming voice filled the room. "The terms are simple," the Illyrian Emperor declared. "Submit to Illyrian rule or face annihilation." Hunter's vision went red. He surged to his feet, only for Petrov's iron grip to yank him back down. "Perhaps," Zor-El's chiming voice cut through the tension, "we should take a brief recess to consider our positions." As the delegates filtered out of the chamber, a series of explosions rocked the station. Alarms blared as smoke filled the corridors. Through the chaos, Hunter caught a glimpse of unfamiliar soldiers in stealth gear. They moved with deadly purpose, rounding up scattered delegates. Petrov! Hunter shouted, pushing the general toward cover as energy weapons fire lanced through the air. A stray bolt caught Petrov in the side, and he crumpled with a pained grunt. Adams materialized at Hunter's side, his face grim. "I've got him," he said, applying pressure to Petrov's wound. "Go!" Hunter hesitated for a split second before nodding. He sprinted down the corridor, following the trail of destruction left by Malkor's strike team. The station had become a war zone, with pockets of resistance forming wherever delegates and security forces rallied. As he rounded a corner, Hunter came face to face with Emperor Malkor himself. The Illyrian leader was surrounded by a phalanx of guards, methodically making his way toward the shuttle bays. "You!" Malkor roared upon seeing Hunter. "I should have eliminated you when I had the chance." Hunter dove for cover as energy bolts peppered his position. He returned fire, his particle rifle leaving scorch marks on the reinforced bulkheads. Malkor and his team pressed forward, forcing Hunter into a fighting retreat. The chase led them through twisting corridors and cavernous maintenance bays. Hunter's lungs burned as he pushed himself to keep pace with the Illyrian strike force. He could hear the sound of ship engines powering up. They were nearing an escape route. Finally, Hunter burst into a small docking bay. A battered shuttle sat on the launch pad, its engines cycling. Malkor stood at the foot of the boarding ramp, a hostage held before him like a shield. With a jolt, Hunter recognized the shimmering skin of an Illyrian genetically modified human. "One more step," Malkor growled, "and I end her miserable life." Hunter's rifle wavered. He locked eyes with the woman. Zara, he recalled from intelligence briefings. Something passed between them in that moment of shared desperation. In a blur of motion, Zara twisted in Malkor's grasp. A hidden blade flashed, and the Illyrian Emperor roared in pain. Hunter seized the opening, unleashing a barrage of particle fire that drove Malkor back. Zara scrambled clear, scooping up a fallen weapon. She turned, leveling it at Malkor's head. "No more," she spat and pulled the trigger. The Illyrian Emperor collapsed, dark ichor oozing from the wound. Hunter approached cautiously, his rifle trained on Zara. "We need to move," she said, her eyes never leaving Malkor's still form. "His loyalists will be here any second." Hunter hesitated, then nodded. "The shuttle. Can you fly it?" A grim smile crossed Zara's face. "Watch me." They dragged Malkor's unconscious body aboard the shuttle and sealed the hatch. Zara's hands flew across the controls, and the small craft lurched into space. Through the view screen, Hunter saw the chaos unfolding around the Ekarin station. Illyrian ships fired on each other as often as they engaged Karushan vessels, rushing to intervene. "Sending authentication codes now," Hunter said, patching into the Terran command frequency. "Let's hope they're in a welcoming mood." As they weaved through the debris field of shattered ships and broken dreams, Hunter allowed himself a moment of grim satisfaction. They had Malkor. It wasn't victory, not by a long shot, but it was a start. The comm crackled to life with an incoming transmission. It was time to face the consequences of their actions and chart a course through the uncertainty that lay ahead. The comm crackled with static as Hunter's voice cut through. "This is Captain Brian Hunter of the Terran Defense Force. We have Emperor Malkor in custody and request immediate clearance to dock." A tense silence followed before General Petrov's strained voice responded. "Clearance granted, Captain. Report to the bridge immediately upon arrival." As their shuttle maneuvered through the debris field, Hunter turned to Zara. "You're about to enter the lion's den. Are you ready for this?" Zara's eyes remained fixed on the controls, her posture rigid. "I've been ready my entire life, Captain." The shuttle touched down in the hangar bay of the Terran flagship. Marines swarmed the vessel, securing the unconscious form of Emperor Malkor. Hunter and Zara were escorted directly to the bridge, where they found General Petrov propped up in the command chair, his face ashen. "Report, Captain," Petrov growled, wincing as he shifted in his seat. Hunter straightened. "Sir, the situation has destabilized beyond our worst projections. The Illyrian Empire is tearing itself apart." Petrov's eyes narrowed. "And you propose we take advantage of this chaos?" "Yes, sir. With your permission, I'd like to lead an assault on Tharkin Prime. Cut off the head of the snake while they're busy fighting each other." The general's gaze swept over Hunter, then settled on Zara. And who might this be? Zara, sir, former associate of Emperor Malkor. She's agreed to assist us. Petrov studied the Illyrian woman for a long moment before nodding. Very well, Captain. You have operational command of this mission. I'm in no shape to lead from the front. Hunter saluted crisply. Thank you, sir. We won't let you down. In the days that followed, Hunter threw himself into planning the assault on Tharkan Prime. He pored over intelligence reports, strategic analyses, and topographical data of the ocean world. Lieutenant Adams joined him, providing invaluable insight into Illyrian defenses. As the combined Terran-Karushan fleet approached Tharkan, Hunter addressed his strike team. This won't be easy. We're dropping into unknown territory against a desperate enemy. But if we succeed, we can end this war once and for all. The orbital invasion began under the cover of a massive Karushan assault on Tharkan's primary defense grid. Hunter's team deployed in stealth landers, aiming for a remote island chain far from the main battle. As they entered the atmosphere, warning klaxons blared. Massive storm system detected, the pilot shouted. We're losing targeting lock. Hunter gripped his harness as the lander bucked violently. Through the viewports, he saw other craft scattered by howling winds and sheets of stinging rain. Their vessel plummeted, alarms screaming as the ocean rushed up to meet them. The impact knocked the breath from Hunter's lungs. Icy water flooded the cabin as the lander's hull fractured. He clawed his way to the emergency hatch, dragging Adams behind him. They burst to the surface in a maelstrom of wind and waves. Lightning illuminated the twisted wreckage of their lander, sinking beneath the churning sea. Hunter activated his suit's beacon, praying the storm wouldn't mask the signal. Hours passed as they fought to stay afloat in the tumultuous waters. Just as exhaustion threatened to claim them, a sleek submersible breached the surface nearby. The hatch opened to reveal a grizzled, amphibious humanoid. You the off-worlders? The creature growled. Name's Marala. Heard your distress call. Now get in before the Illyrians find us. Hunter and Adams clambered aboard, collapsing in a sodden heap as the submersible dove beneath the waves. Marala eyed them warily. You better be worth the risk, humans. We've got a long way to go if we're going to reach your friends. As they sped through the murky depths of Tharkan's alien ocean, Hunter's mind raced. The invasion had been scattered before it even began. Now he had to find a way to salvage the mission and link up with Zara's forces, all while navigating the treacherous political waters of an alien resistance movement. The submersible's sensors pinged, detecting a massive Illyrian patrol. Marala cursed, diving deeper to avoid detection. In the cramped confines of the vessel, Hunter exchanged a grim look with Adams. This was only the beginning of their trials on Tharkan Prime. The submersible's sensors pinged again, this time detecting a friendly signal. Marala guided the vessel towards a hidden underwater cave system, emerging into a cavernous air pocket. As the hatch opened, Hunter and Adams found themselves facing a motley crew of resistance fighters. Humans, Karushan, and even some rogue Illyrians. Welcome to our humble abode, a gruff voice called out. A scarred Karushan stepped forward, introducing himself as Zor-El's liaison. We've been expecting you, Captain Hunter, though I must say your arrival method was unorthodox. Hunter nodded grimly. The invasion didn't go as planned. What's our status? The resistance fighter led them to a makeshift command center, holographic displays flickering to life. Not good. Admiral Voxera's flagship just entered orbit, leading a coalition of Illyrian warlord fleets. They're determined to crush us. As if on cue, the cave trembled from distant explosions. Adams cursed under his breath. They're already starting their assault. Hunter studied the tactical readouts, his mind racing. We need to buy time for Zara's forces to pin down the Illyrian beachhead troops. Any ideas? The Karushan liaison's mandibles clicked thoughtfully. We've been working on refitting this base as a stronghold. It's not much, but it's all we've got. Hunter's eyes narrowed as he formulated a plan. It'll have to do. Adams, I need you to coordinate our defenses here. I'm going topside for a little sabotage run. Sir? Adams looked concerned. That's practically suicide. Maybe, Hunter admitted. But if we don't take out those capital ships, we're all dead anyway. As Hunter prepared for his mission, alarms blared throughout the base. Resistance fighters scrambled to battle stations as Theknar's reinforced army launched a massive land and sea offensive. Hunter sprinted towards a captured Illyrian shuttle, shouting final orders to Adams. "Hold them off as long as you can. I'll be back with reinforcements." The shuttle rocketed out of the underwater base. Cloaking systems engaged as it ascended towards Voxera's fleet. Hunter's hands flew across the controls, inputting stolen Illyrian codes to bypass the fleet's security protocols. As he maneuvered between the massive warships, Hunter's trained eye identified vulnerable points. He deployed modified Karushan boarding drones, each carrying a potent mix of computer viruses and explosive payloads. Alarms blared across the Illyrian fleet as systems began to fail. Hunter watched with grim satisfaction as capital ships lost power, weapons going offline and shields flickering out of existence. But his victory was short-lived. A dozen Illyrian fighters peeled away from the main fleet, zeroing in on his position. Hunter gritted his teeth, pushing the shuttle into a series of evasive maneuvers that strained its structural integrity. Energy bolts lanced past the cockpit as Hunter dove towards Tharkin's turbulent atmosphere. Warning lights flashed across his console as the shuttle's hull began to heat up from the friction of re-entry. Through the comm system, he heard Adams's frantic voice. "Captain, we're being overrun. Theknar's forces have breached the perimeter." Hunter's mind raced. "Hold on, Lieutenant. I'm incoming hot." The shuttle screamed through the lower atmosphere, its hull glowing cherry red. Hunter aimed for the coordinates of the resistance base, praying he wasn't too late. As he burst through the cloud cover, Hunter saw the carnage below. Illyrian dropships swarmed the island, disgorging waves of troops. The resistance fighters were putting up a valiant defense, but they were clearly outgunned and outnumbered. Hunter opened a channel to all resistance frequencies. "This is Captain Hunter. All units, fall back to the reactor core. I repeat, fall back to the reactor core." He brought the shuttle in, low, strafing Illyrian positions with its remaining weapons. The distraction gave the beleaguered defenders time to retreat to the heart of the facility. As Hunter touched down, he saw Adams coordinating the final defense. The lieutenant's face was streaked with blood and grime, but his eyes burned with persistence. "Glad you could make it, sir," Adams said, tossing Hunter a plasma rifle. "We're just about ready for the grand finale." Hunter nodded grimly. "Let's hope it's worth the price." They retreated deeper into the facility, rigging improvised explosives and setting up choke points. The sound of Illyrian war cries echoed through the corridors, growing ever closer. "How much longer?" Hunter asked, glancing at the jury-rigged reactor core. Its containment field flickered ominously, barely restraining the destructive energies within. Adams checked his datapad. 2 minutes until critical mass. After that, well, let's just say we don't want to be here. Hunter opened his mouth to respond when a massive explosion rocked the facility. Dust and debris rained down as Theknar's forces breached the final barrier. "Time to go," Hunter growled, laying down suppressing fire as Adams triggered the reactor's overload sequence. They sprinted towards the emergency exit, Illyrian energy bolts sizzling past their heads. Hunter could feel the heat building behind them as the reactor's containment field began to fail. Just as they reached the exit, a deafening roar filled the air. Hunter risked a glance back, seeing a wall of blinding white energy rushing towards them. "Jump!" he shouted, pushing Adams through the hatch. They plunged into the churning seas below, the water barely cushioning their fall. As they surfaced, gasping for air, the sky above them turned to fire. The island facility vanished in an apocalyptic fireball, vaporizing Theknar's invasion force and sending shockwaves rippling across the ocean. Hunter and Adams clung to floating debris, watching in awe and horror as the inferno spread across the seas. In orbit, the explosion's aftermath wreaked havoc on Voxera's fleet. Her flagship listed to one side, venting atmosphere and debris. Dozens of other vessels suffered similar fates, their formations shattered. Through the chaos, Hunter spotted a battered Karushan shuttle descending towards their position. As it touched down on the waves nearby, the hatch opened to reveal Zara's grim face. "Need a lift?" she called out. Hunter and Adams clambered aboard, collapsing in exhaustion as the shuttle ascended towards the remnants of Zor-El's fleet. As they broke through the atmosphere, Hunter saw the full extent of the destruction. The once mighty armadas of 3 species now drifted in eerie silence, reduced to twisted wreckage and scattered debris. Tharkan Prime had been captured, but the cost was almost beyond comprehension. As Zara piloted them towards Zor-El's flagship, Hunter stared out at the cosmic graveyard. The battle for Tharkan was over, but he knew the real challenges were just beginning. The battle for Tharkan was over, but he knew the real challenges were just starting. As they approached Zor-El's flagship, Hunter saw the full extent of the devastation. The once proud armadas of 3 species now drifted lifelessly, reduced to twisted metal and scattered debris. Tharkan Prime had been captured, but at a cost that defied comprehension. The shuttle docked with a shudder. Hunter helped Adams to his feet, the lieutenant's face pale from blood loss. Zara led them through the corridors, past crews working frantically to keep the battered ship operational. They entered the command center to find Zor-El hunched over a holographic display, her mandibles clicking rapidly as she issued orders. She turned as they approached, her compound eyes gleaming with a mix of triumph and calculation. "Captain Hunter," she said, her translator struggling to convey the complexity of her tone, "your unorthodox tactics have proven most effective." Hunter nodded grimly. "We did what was necessary, but the cost was unavoidable," Zor-El interrupted. "Now we must discuss the future of our alliance." As Zor-El spoke, outlining her vision of a Karushan-dominated quadrant with Earth as a protected world, Hunter felt a growing sense of unease. He glanced at Zara, whose face had hardened into an unreadable mask. "You can't be serious," Hunter said, his voice low and dangerous. "After everything we've sacrificed..." "Sacrificed?" Zor-El's mandibles clacked in what might have been laughter. "Humans have proven themselves formidable, yes, but also unpredictable, dangerous. The galaxy will sleep easier with your species contained." Hunter's hand inched towards his sidearm, but before he could move, Zara sprang into action. In a blur of motion, she disarmed Zor-El's guards and had the Karushan leader pinned against a console, a vibroblade at her throat. "Stand down," Zara growled, her eyes blazing with a cold fury, "or I'll show you just how dangerous humans can be." Hunter stared at her in shock. "Zara, what?" "I was raised to be Malkor's perfect weapon," she said, never taking her eyes off Zor-El. "But my loyalty was always to humanity. Captain, get your people out of here, now." As alarms blared throughout the ship, Hunter made a split-second decision. He keyed his comm, ordering all remaining Terran vessels to disengage and rendezvous at the edge of the system. Hours later, as Hunter stood on the bridge of his battered flagship, he received the first reports from Earth. The holoscreens flickered with images of celebration juxtaposed with scenes of devastation. Millions dead. Entire continents scarred by orbital bombardment. The price of victory laid bare in stark, horrifying detail. A message from the Terran High Command appeared, marked urgent. As Hunter read the communique, detailing the harsh sanctions being imposed by other powers across the quadrant, he felt the weight of command settle on his shoulders like never before. Adams limped onto the bridge, his wounds hastily treated, but his spirit unbroken. "What now, sir?" Hunter looked out at the stars, his expression grim but resolute. "Now, we go home, and we face the consequences of our actions." As the Terran fleet limped towards Earth, Hunter knew that the real battle, the fight for humanity's soul and its place in the galaxy, was only just beginning.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.